All right, we're going to shoot the Gorgeous George show here. We're going to shoot the Gorgeous George show. We're going to get into the recent situation with the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys, and what has happened. As everybody knows, unless you've been under a rock, the Cowboys, Jerry Jones brass had fired Mike McCarthy, and it was time to fire Mike McCarthy because of not winning a playoff game. And that was what the mantra was. You get the team into the NFC title game and you win in the NFC title game. Well, unfortunately, just recently, the Shitskins were the only team with the Cowboys that haven't got into the title game in the past 30 years. The Shitskins from Washington, the Commandos, were the only other team that didn't make it into the NFC title game in the past 30 years. All the NFC teams have. Well, that just recently changed where Dan Quinn's Washington Commandos went as far as beating the Detroit Lions, the favored Detroit Lions, and then taking over the NFC title game going into the buzzsaw as the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I hate the Philadelphia Eagles with a passion, but I also hate the Washington Shitskins. And I call them the Washington Shitskins because that's what they are. I think, at being an avid Cowboy fan, we have been 30 years is about the same time I've been doing my show for about 30 years. The only difference is the first year we were doing it, we had the Cowboys playing the Steelers in Super Bowl 30. And Barry Switzer said, "We're going to do it, baby." And they did do it in the tune of 27-17. They beat those shitty Steelers in Super Bowl 30. The best Super Bowl in my eyes. I love Jimmy Johnson, but it was with Barry Switzer. "We're going to do it, baby." Oklahoma brass and the class from Oklahoma. And we beat those hated Steelers, those shitty-fied, those disgusting Steelers. We beat them 27-17. And then, after all the time, 30 years later, we have not even sniffed it. Now, in 2006, I met Jerry Jones. I was in Dallas. It was in the old Texas Stadium in downtown Dallas, which is now a parking lot if you go down there. And the preface of what I met Jerry Jones. He was excited as hell. I said, Jerry. And I didn't have my camera, didn't have any of that, and I couldn't even get an autograph. But I met the man, shook his hand and whatnot. That was back in 2006 at the old Texas Stadium. Now we look at it for what it is. So many coaches have come and gone. Bill Parcells, Dave Campo, Bill Parcells, pretty much, and Bum Phillips, or Bum Phillips' son, and all these people, and Mr. Clapper himself, clapping his hands and whatnot, Jason Garrett, and just going through a carousel of a bunch of closes, a bunch of coaches that pretty much were mediocre. When we fired McCarthy, it was more of a simple deal where McCarthy was the one that said, "Look, I want a long-term deal." Well, this year was a bust. Granted, there were a lot of injuries throughout, a lot of key injuries. Dak Prescott himself got injured also, and along with other players. Micah Parsons was missed half the season. Dan Bland, corner Dan Bland, had missed the season. And of course, Trayvon Diggs got injured at the very end again. And of course, Trayvon Diggs had missed most of last year. And we had, just the flu bug, and then people just, getting injured and getting injured left and right. But injuries are not an excuse. Injuries are not an excuse why the team cannot win and why a team can't win on paper. Mike McCarthy was a Super Bowl winning Super Bowl winning coach under the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers' only Super Bowl. And ironically, they played that game against those Squealers in Texas Stadium. Packers played those Squealers in Texas Stadium back in 2009 when AT&T hosted the Super Bowl. I think it was 2009. Could have been 2013. Who knows? That'd be 2013. Nevertheless, basically we had Mike McCarthy for 5 years, solid 12-5 seasons, but couldn't win. We won one playoff game. We sent Tom Brady into retirement. That was the one game that was awesome. We sent Tom Brady in permanent retirement on that one playoff game. But other than that, well, I think it was another one we played against the Rams, and we beat the Rams as well. So there were two games or two teams that we beat in the playoffs. So now, but reality pokes its head out right now. And reality pokes its head out knowing that there could have been a Super Bowl or an NFC title appearance. We should have been the damn Green Bay Packers in 2014 when Des Bryant broke the plane with the ball in his hand. And, of course, we knew the ground cannot cause a fumble. He hit the plane, he crossed the plane, and he had the touchdown against the Green Bay Packers. And again, the line pretty much he broke the line, and the ground cannot cause a fumble. But yet they didn't call it. And, of course, the Cowboys should have been beating the Packers that year. Ironically, Mike McCarthy was the coach. Mike McCarthy was the coach of the Packers. Cowboys have had some hard luck, have had some bad luck. They've had a lot of talent. A lot of talent they've had. Some bonehead moves, though, they've made by re-signing Ezekiel Elliott, which his skills have eroded. And not re-signing Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper should have been re-signed by the Cowboys. But going and get Zeke Elliott, who was pretty much his skills had eroded. So you look at it for what it was and what it is, it's just amazing how that played out. But you had Mr. Clapper, Jason Garrett throughout the time. Some good years with Dak, but injury-prone years with Dak. So Tony Romo, great quarterback, same deal. With Tony Romo, you had injury-prone. He was very injury-prone, but he was very durable and he was a great quarterback. Same deal with Dak, but injury-prone. The deal was they were going to keep Mike McCarthy, but he wanted a longer deal, and Jerry wasn't going to give him the longer deal, so they go ahead and fire, or Mike McCarthy resigns, or they fire him, whatever you want to call it. Deion Primetime was right there for the taking, and Deion Sanders should have been the new coach of the Cowboys, with bringing in Shindora, his son, from Colorado. Shindora, his son, should have came in there from Colorado, and then a deal of what they were talking about was trading off Dak. Of course, then whoever was going to be trading off, if we were trading off Dak, but they would be assuming or consuming that large income, or that large income that was going to be given to him for the next 4 years, with us paying a portion of it in a trade. But getting Dak and some other players, but then we get Shindora and some other picks in the draft. Well, that didn't go to his plan because they didn't even interview Deion Sanders. They talked to, of course, Deion Sanders goes way back because he was one of the best players that the Cowboys had back in the day. Was one of the best corners in the game. You did not want to throw against him. You did not want to go against him. He was the man back in the day. And he had the durability of covering that base, and you would go on this other side. You would never throw on his side. You would throw on the opposite side. That being said, that was a smokescreen. They hired 4 coaches. They didn't hire four coaches. They interviewed 4 coaches, and they go with a coach or a person that was not even an assistant. And they get Brian Schottenheimer to be their head coach. Never coached a game, never coached a high school game, much less a professional game. He was Mike McCarthy's friend. He followed, he was Mike McCarthy's friend, and they hired Brian Schottenheimer. And it makes you wonder, someone who's had no coaching experience whatsoever, and yet they hire him. This is why, and I love Jerry Jones. I've said this. I met the man. I was excited. I love Jerry Jones and whatnot. I think now, though, it's time to think about the team selling the Cowboys to a person that wants to win. I'm sorry. You had it right in your hands to get Deion Sanders, and he would have came at a drop of a hat. It's called winning. That's the game of football. It's called winning. You had the opportunity and the chance to get Deion Sanders as your head coach, and yet you dropped the ball, didn't even do that. Hell, the only other alternative was Pete Carroll, and the Raiders got Pete Carroll. You had two opportunities, and you dropped the ball. You didn't even interview these people. You just spoke to them on the phone and only did 4 interviews. And then you give this no-namer the spot. Now, Dak likes him because he worked with Dak. He wasn't even an offensive coordinator. He was an assistant to the offensive coordinator. Friends with Mike McCarthy. And because Dak felt comfortable with him, then he became the head coach, because Dak felt comfortable with him and approved it. Proved who the coach was, and then they got him as the head coach. It makes me wonder. Something is fishy in Denmark here. Something is extremely fishy in Denmark. It doesn't add up. 30 years of not being in the high life. Still with the mantra of America's team, but still not in, not sniffing the playoffs, but not getting past the NFC title game, or not even getting to the NFC title game. As a Cowboy fan, it's hard to accept, but it's what it is. It's hard to accept. I think, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I've always been a supporter of Jerry Jones. I think now maybe he needs to sell the team to someone who actually wants to win, a person that wants to win. And I think a good person is no further down the street in American Airlines Arena, Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban, who, pretty much sold some of his shares of the Dallas Mavericks, would be a great owner to the Cowboys. Maybe Mark Cuban could be the one that Jerry Jones sells the team to. Even though Cuban still has shares in the Dallas Mavericks, he could also have shares in stock in the Americas Team, the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys should have been pretty much made that pick. Hey, it is what it is. Super Bowl, I don't care who wins. I'm not even going to watch it. Just soon see the Chiefs win again. Hate the freaking Eagles. I hope they lose. Hate the freaking Eagles. I hope they freaking lose big time. But it was nice to see the Shitskins lose too. It was nice to see the balances be in check. It was good to see the Shitskins lose also. I think parity is a good thing, but once the salary cap has sucked his bad head in there, it's caused teams to have to get rid of their good players or have to raise up their salary in the salary cap to get who they want. I think that what needs to happen is this needs to be re-looked at again by the NFL. Roger Goodell needs to re-look at this. The salary cap is to give an even balance to all the teams and all the markets. But the salary cap impedes the path of people that want to spend the money and can't spend the money, and being able to want to get at certain players and can't get certain players due to the fact because they can't afford them. I don't know. It's what it is. The NFL, and don't get it twisted, because the NFL is rigged. We know that. They already know who's going to win the Super Bowl before it happens. They already know the teams are going to be in the Super Bowl, and they already know who's going to be in the Super Bowl. And Roger Goodell has a compensity to stick it to Jerry Jones every single time. Jerry has kind of lost a step. Jerry's lost a step in some of his decision-making. But Roger Goodell always likes to stick it to Jerry and making it harder for the Cowboys. The most penalized team in football, most just bizarre things go about. And just, costing the Cowboys chances to proceed, or cost the Cowboys the chances of going further in the playoffs over phantom penalties. And these referees are told what to do, and the NFL pretty much calls the shots on who's going to win and how they're going to win and what's going to happen. NFL should be regulated. NFL should be looked at. It's become unwatchable. What it stands for in the NFL, it stands for not for long. You're in there in the National Football League, not for long. And some of these refs, they do this work for part-time stuff. That's their hobbies throughout the fall and the winter. They're retired, and they don't have the mobility or the way to even call half of the damn plays, because half of these people are over 60 years old. Half of these referees are over 60 years old, and they don't have the agility or the energy to keep up with the players, because they're old in age, and they don't see the plays being called or the right preceding plays to be called. Prime example: when a defender is blocking the person from catching the ball, and his helmet is facing that person, not looking back at the ball, that is pass interference on the defense. And a lot of times they don't call that. When the defender, who's trying to get the ball out of the wide receiver's hands, when he tries to get the ball out of the wide receiver's hands and doesn't look back, and his crown of his head is facing the actual wide receiver, that's blatant pass interference, and yet they don't call that. So there are a lot of things that the NFL needs to recruit or redo, a lot of things that the NFL needs to reevaluate on how they proceed at doing things. Just my humble opinion. Cowboys should have got Deion Sanders. There's no doubt about that. Now we have Brian Schottenheimer. Who? Brian Schottenheimer. I mean, come on. They should have got Deion Sanders. He would have brought his son, and they would have had a chance of being in the Super Bowl pretty soon. Now you get Brian Schottenheimer, and Brian Schottenheimer is like, who? Who is that? Who? But it is what it is. Who is that? Who is that coach? Who's that coach in waiting? Who's that coach? It wasn't even an assistant. It was an associate to the assistant offensive coordinator. It wasn't even an offensive coordinator. And that's what we get. Should have got Kellen Moore back in there. Should have got Kellen Moore back in there if they were going to go that route. Anyway, this is what it is. I think, long drought for the Cowboys, but maybe the Cowboys will sniff it. Maybe they need to get a running back. They got to get a durable running back. They got to do something. This draft is not a big draft. It's not a strong draft. It's not a big draft or talented draft, a strong draft, but they need to actually get players, and they need a durable running back somehow, some way. And I'm not sure how long Dak has got. Dak is going to be paid another 4 years. The highest paid quarterback, that is Dak. And he needs to step it up. He needs to step it up big time. But yet, hasn't done so as yet. It's going to be, the upcoming years are going to be tight. Going to be tough. Maybe the Cowboys will emerge again. They were modestly 12-5 for three seasons in a row. 12-5 for 3 seasons in a row under McCarthy. McCarthy had a winning touch, but could not won that 2 games in the playoffs, and that was it. He won 2 games in the playoffs and did no more than that. There is a way around it. There should be a way around it, and there should be more options, and they should do away with the salary cap. They should do away with the salary cap and make it an even level playing field. You got the other teams with an even level playing field. They have the same kind of money with an even level playing field, but give the teams out there that want to spend the money to be able to spend the money. You do away with the salary cap, because it kills teams, and it kills teams altogether from progressing on. You want every little team to win. This doesn't make every team win. It's the same way. They're stunt on who they can keep. The star players have to go because they're stunt in how to keep them. They can't keep them because they don't have the money to keep them. That salary cap has to go. Bye-bye. It has to go bye-bye with that salary cap. Salary cap's got to go. Bye-bye. All right. 20 minutes of that. Hey, it's my take. It's my opinion. It's my world. That's my take. We have more shows coming up, and we will do more shows. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening.